Why is your makeup so thick? Are you trying to hide how you really look? This question, asked by young Kai, made everyone feel awkward. Lila's smile disappeared, and Kai's father ended up in trouble. This is the story of Kai, a boy taught to be bold, and what he and his father learned about being confident versus being mean. Once, there was a boy named Kai who lived in a city. He loved to ask questions. His father thought he was helping Kai learn by always praising him no matter what he did. As soon as Kai could talk, he said whatever he thought. He didn't care if it was rude, embarrassing, or hurtful. At school, Kai was known for saying whatever came to mind. Teachers didn't want him in their classes because he interrupted with strange and offensive questions. One day, Kai asked his teacher why he had hair growing from his nose. He asked another teacher why she wore the same shoes every day. These questions were true, but they caused problems. The other students avoided him because he often said things that made them feel ashamed or insulted. Once, at a school event, Kai pointed at a girl and made fun of her ears. He said they were so big she could hear things far away. The girl was very upset for days and told her parents she felt bad about her ears. The girl's parents saw how much Kai's words hurt their daughter. They went to Kai's father to talk about it. But instead of telling his son he was wrong, Kai's father ignored their concerns. If you want your children to be shy, that's your choice. My son Kai is brave, sure of himself, and open. These are good qualities in today's world, and I won't stop him from being himself. The girl's parents were so upset that they took their daughter out of the school. They wanted her to heal emotionally and not be embarrassed anymore. More and more parents complained, so the school had to take action. They had a meeting with Kai's father about his son's behavior. But instead of listening, he said the school was unfair to his son. He got angry and took Kai out of the school. He said he would find a school that would let his son speak freely. He left the principal's office with Kai, feeling proud and believing everyone else was wrong. He didn't realize how much damage his son's words had caused. Soon, Kai went to a new school. His father thought this would be a fresh start, and others would see how smart and brave his son was. But things didn't go as planned. On his very first day, Kai acted the same way. He saw a heavy woman and asked her why she had to eat her whole family to prove a point. The woman was heartbroken. She was reminded of her daughter who had recently died from an illness. She knew Kai was just a boy, but his words reopened her fresh grief. Everyone was shocked. Some people covered their mouths, and others looked away, disappointed. But his father didn't change. He kept defending his son, telling everyone that he was raising a confident child, not someone who was timid. He didn't understand that confidence without kindness is just being cruel. One evening, Kai's father was visited by Lila, a pretty woman he was dating. Lila had heard a lot about Kai and wanted to meet him. When she arrived, Kai greeted her with a sweet smile. From the moment she came in, Kai stared at her with wide-eyed curiosity. Then, he asked the question that would change everything. Why is your makeup so thick? Are you trying to hide how you really look? The room became silent. Lila froze, her smile disappearing. Kai's father gave an awkward laugh, but Lila was not pleased. She stood up, grabbed her purse, and made up an excuse to leave. Kai's father followed her, insisting that Kai was just a child and didn't mean any harm. Lila turned to him, looking very disappointed. He may be a child, Mr. Evans, but you are an adult. If this is how you have taught him to treat people, then I'm sorry, but I can't be with you. She got into her car and left, leaving Mr. Evans feeling ashamed for the first time. He went back inside and saw Kai sitting on the couch, not worried at all. Why did she leave, Father? Kai asked innocently. But his father, Mr. Evans, didn't answer. He just sat down and held his head in his hands, feeling very sad. Mr. Evans couldn't bring himself to correct Kai. He thought that doing so would destroy the self-confidence he had worked so hard to build in him. One Saturday afternoon, Mr. Evans took Kai to the supermarket to buy food. While Mr. Evans pushed the cart, Kai followed him, asking loud, unnecessary questions. As they were about to pay, a tall, curvy, and elegant woman walked by. Mr. Evans, without thinking, turned slightly to look at her. Just then, Kai shouted, loud enough for everyone to hear, "Daddy, why are you looking at her rear?" The line went silent, and the cashier stopped what they were doing. Mr. Evans was extremely embarrassed. He had never felt so ashamed in his life and wished he could disappear. The woman turned around and glared at him. People started to chuckle, whispering and pointing. "This man has no manners," someone said. Mr. Evans glared at his son, but Kai continued, "But Daddy, you were looking at her behind. You even turned your head as she walked by," he exclaimed, as people laughed and made fun of them. Mr. Evans left his groceries and ran out of the supermarket with his son. Even after this humiliating experience, Mr. Evans still found it hard to correct Kai. He justified his behavior, saying his son was just telling the truth. What Mr. Evans didn't realize was that the small tiger he was raising would one day turn on him in a way he never expected. Mr. Evans took Kai to a government office to deal with some paperwork. The line was long and people were frustrated as they waited. Kai, as usual, wandered around the office asking loud questions. He pointed at an old man and asked why his teeth looked like broken corn kernels. He saw a pregnant woman and asked if she was expecting 10 babies at once. People frowned, but Mr. Evans was used to their reactions. They arrived at the office of a high-ranking government official in charge of approving Mr. Evans' building contract. Kai sat quietly in the corner while his father had a short talk with the official. Mr. Evans was working hard to get this contract and had used dishonest methods to make sure it would be approved. After signing some papers, the official assured Mr. Evans that his file would be sent to the right people for approval. Overjoyed, Mr. Evans thanked the man a lot. As he and Kai were about to leave, they walked out of the office and down a long hallway where people were sitting, some talking, others quietly minding their own business. As they got closer to the exit, Kai stopped and shouted, in his usual unfiltered tone, "Daddy, why did you give that man so much money? Isn't that bribery?" Everyone turned to stare. Mr. Evans froze, slowly turning to his son, trying to cover his mouth, but it was too late. A tall, dark-skinned woman in full military uniform had just walked past them. She was Colonel Imani, a highly respected anti-corruption officer known throughout the country for her strong stance against bribery. She stopped and turned back to face them. Her eyes narrowed. "Excuse me," she said, walking towards Mr. Evans and Kai. "What did your son just say?" Mr. Evans stammered, his face covered in sweat. "Oh no, ma'am, he's just a child. He doesn't understand what he's saying." Kai, not realizing how serious the situation was, stepped forward and boldly told the woman, "I saw my daddy giving that man a large brown envelope. I saw it. He said that if he doesn't give him money, they won't approve his building contract." Colonel Imani turned to her assistant and told him to follow them. "Get a search warrant for the office they just left, and make sure that brown envelope is found within 10 minutes. Mr. Evans was surrounded by anti-corruption officers. The envelope was found, and Mr. Evans was arrested for bribery. Mr. Evans didn't even resist. He looked at his son, Kai, who had tears in his eyes, and for the first time, Mr. Evans felt sorry for everything. Not just the bribe, not just the embarrassment, but the years he had spent defending Kai's inappropriate behavior, the pride he mistook for confidence, and his refusal to correct his son when it truly mattered. As he was handcuffed and led away, Mr. Evans turned to his son with a heavy heart. "Son, there's a difference between being bold and being wise. I should have given you better guidance," he said as they took him away. Kai watched as his father was put in a police van and driven away, his small chest heaving, confusion clouding his eyes. He didn't understand what had just happened. What had he done wrong? He was only saying what he had seen, as his father had always encouraged. But now, Daddy was gone. That evening, the police contacted Mr. Evans' sister to take care of Kai. Auntie Zara was nothing like his father. While Mr. Evans allowed Kai to do whatever he wanted, Auntie Zara was strict, firm, and a strong believer in discipline. A school teacher who had raised 3 well-behaved children, she was well respected in her community as a no-nonsense woman. The moment Kai arrived, she welcomed him with a plate of food and a warning. In this house, we do not speak carelessly. Your words must show wisdom. From that day on, Kai's life changed completely. There were rules, routines, and boundaries. If Kai spoke out of turn, he had to kneel and think about his actions for 10 minutes. If he made a rude remark, he had to write 100 lines of apology. Every evening, he had to share a kind thing he had said during the day, or he would go to bed without dinner. At first, Kai resisted. He sulked, cried, and even tried to argue, but Auntie Zara was determined. Your words almost got your father into serious trouble. I will not allow them to ruin another life under my care, she told Kai, who stood silently for the first time in his life, unsure of how to respond. The following days were challenging. Kai was no longer the center of attention. No one laughed at his offensive jokes or praised him for being bold or clever. For the first time, he began to feel the pain he had caused others. One morning, while helping to sweep the yard, Kai saw a young girl trip and fall. Normally, he would have made a sarcastic comment, but something stopped him. His aunt's stern warnings. Instead of laughing, he rushed to help her. "Are you all right?" Kai asked the girl, who looked surprised and thanked him. Kai felt a sense of joy, unlike anything he had ever known. It was so different from the satisfaction he got from making unkind remarks or mocking others' misfortunes. That small incident changed Kai, and he returned to the house that day with a quiet smile. That night, as usual, Auntie Zara sat with him at the dinner table and asked her daily question, "Kai, what is one kind thing you said today?" Kai looked down at his plate, then slowly raised his head and replied, "I helped the girl who fell, and I asked if she was okay, and she smiled." For the first time, Auntie Zara's stern expression softened into a warm smile. "That's the kind of bravery the world needs," she said to Kai, who smiled back as they continued their meal. Weeks turned into months, and the boy who once tore others down with his words began to lift them up. He stopped saying every thought that came to mind, asked permission before speaking, learned to compliment others, and thought carefully about his words before saying them. Auntie Zara was grateful for Kai's transformation. She silently watched his progress with pride as he grew into a respectable young man. One Sunday afternoon, Auntie Zara took Kai to visit his father in prison. Mr. Evans looked thinner, older, and quieter than Kai remembered. The moment he saw his son, his eyes filled with tears. Kai ran into his arms, hugging him tightly. "Daddy, I've been learning to communicate more thoughtfully. I even helped someone and didn't make fun of them," he said proudly. Mr. Evans pulled back and looked at his son, his lips trembling, but he managed to smile. "I'm proud of you, son. Keep growing, and always listen to your aunt's advice." There was a long pause before Mr. Evans continued. "I wish I had taught you earlier that telling the truth means not only saying what you see, but understanding the right way and time to say it." Kai nodded slowly, finally beginning to understand. As he walked out of the prison, holding his aunt's hand, Kai looked up at the sky. He was unsure about what the future held for his father, but he knew what he wanted for himself. Not only to be brave, but to be kind, to be wise, and to be remembered not for his words, but for his character. And so, Kai's journey continued, no longer as the boy who said every thought, but as the boy who learned to think before he spoke. The lesson of this story is that words have great power. Raising a child without teaching them to use their words wisely is like giving them a sword without any training. It may not hurt them, but it will definitely hurt others. Confidence without empathy is just cruelty. Honesty without wisdom is dangerous, and children often copy what we praise. Therefore, let us raise them not to be loud, but to be thoughtful, empathetic, and wise. I hope you found the story meaningful.